first up is Chistine with Eastern Market. And yeah, we can start by just telling us a little bit about Eastern Market and what you're doing and how this came to be.
Great. Hey everyone, I'm Chistine Quane. I'm the Food Hub and Innovation Director at Eastern Market. And we had wanted to do a food box for a long time and just didn't have the topside green light to do that until the pandemic hit, quite frankly. And so come mid-March, my boss, Dan Carmody, said, we need to put a food box together. We need to put the market online. You have 10 days, go. So it was quite a process to get started. But we have developed a food box program that has now taken on a life of its own. And when we were currently making food boxes for a Saturday curbside program, we also applied to and was awarded the USDA Farmers to Families program. So the USDA program was for those not familiar with it, if you recall in the early days of the pandemic, because of supply chain pivots for farmers were plowing under acres of produce because they couldn't pivot to grocery retailers and in time. And at the same time, food banks were coming up short with food. And so the USDA Farmers to Family program was a solution in which distributors, produce distributors, food hubs, and other nonprofits, and actually in some cases some farms, could put together a produce box and get it to people who were food insecure. So Eastern Market did 2,000 boxes a week in that USDA program, partnering with 12 different nonprofit partners. And what was great about our program was that we weren't working with the food bank system. They were already being covered by other distributors. And this helped us go a level deeper into food insecurity in the city of Detroit. It allowed us to get on the front lines of neighborhood food insecurity. And for those of you who are unaware of Detroit, we do have transportation issues, and connecting to food banks in a lot of situations for Detroiters was tough. So we literally brought food to neighborhoods in the city of Detroit, 2,000 boxes a week. But as part of that USDA program, we needed to get GAP certified. They were willing to accept us into the program with the promise that we would follow through and get our GAP certification. So, so that's what kind of got us into the mix of doing it. And it's not that it was something that I didn't want to do eventually, but we were new to making food boxes, and had I had a little bit more of a runway, I probably would have, in all honesty, probably put it off to year 2. I wouldn't have just started making food boxes in the beginning of May and then by August go for a GAP certification, but here we are. So, but I had been on the outskirts of GAP certification and knowing and attended a few classes, and I knew what needed to be done. But that's what motivated us to get into it. And also knowing now that we have this, that qualifies us for future USDA programs. And that's really, I think not just maintaining a high food safety game, but the access to be able to easily apply for future USDA grant programming is a clear benefit for us. And also, like, now that we have it and we are, penetrating new markets with our food box, this opens us up to, connecting with more institutions. So one of the programs that we're hoping to connect to in 2021 is healthcare systems. And so we're also making boxes for fresh prescription boxes as well. So, now that we have our GAP certification, this allows us to get into the market where we can connect to people who are vulnerable and at most at risk for food safety. So um, that's kind of where I think the overall direction, the purpose, and kind of where we are with the program.
Awesome.
And as far as the ease of doing it, I I have to say that I not just because you're on this webinar with us, John McCarthy, but um, I had to write the SOPs. I had to put the food safety plan together, but without the help of John helping me like tie in all of this information that we were already doing and lay it out in a way that could just make the whole audit go so quickly, so smoothly. I mean, he was he was exactly what I needed when I needed it, because each section of the GAP audit is ties back to a specific question, and it was great to just organize all of our stuff in a way that we could just get through the audit quickly. So it really made it quite easy. Like he laid out the path in front of me, and it was a matter of me taking the steps. So, I didn't have to invent anything new or do anything new. Um, and it really wasn't that hard. I gotta say, I mean, we were doing things right, but with a few tweaks here and there, wasn't hard.
Was there anything that surprised you in the process?
Yeah, how easy it was. I mean, again, I think it starts with doing the right thing to start with. Um, and having, I'm ServSafe certified, and I have the saying that like once you know food safety, you can't unknow food safety. And so, so starting from the get-go, I had a good sense of where we were going and what we needed to do, but um, getting everything together in the package that is the GAP audit and in doing things the GAP way, um, it wasn't such a hard pivot, to be honest with you. So I think that there's a lot of people and there's a lot of myths out there about how darn difficult this is. And I really, it's not.
Mhm.
At least it wasn't for us.
So when you talk about engaging with buyers, are how has that side of things went? Are you is your the primary? Let me rephrase that. Is the primary buyer you're dealing with on a gap from a gap standpoint the USDA, or are you having that conversation now with others saying like, hey, we're gap certified now, we can do these other new things?
Right. So I mentioned that we are looking to get into healthcare situations and, in healthcare markets. So yes, we did it for USDA, but now we're doing it for healthcare markets. And eventually, post-pandemic, we hope to be able to connect even more into institutions and schools. So, this allows us to kind of get into some new markets that weren't previously accessible to us.
Mhm.
And, in the sense too, is I feel that even the partners that we're working with at any time, it's almost like an insurance to keep the business that we do have too. Because at any point, at any time, any one of our partners could say, we now have a new rule that we're only working with GAP distributors. And if you're not GAP, then we can't do business with you anymore. So I feel like a very important part of getting GAP certified is to keep the business that you already have.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. Um, so in your talking with buyers, like what are they typically asking for? You know, if you're starting those conversations with schools and hospitals, are they just asking for the cert or they're asking for more stuff?
They're just asking for the cert, and I don't feel that buyers necessarily know even what it is that gap is. I think that mostly what they're looking for is to push off risk mitigation. I think that's what it comes down to for them. Um, and so it's up to us to kind of, teach them our own, I think it's just a way for us to say that food safety, that we're conscious of it, that we work towards it every day. And the certification is just evidence of our following those guidelines. And I, to be honest with you, I think that probably most people who are buyers don't know all the things that we do and why and the why. And I don't know if they even necessarily need to know. They just want to know that we're doing it. That's
Mhm,
it. That's it's baseline now.
mhm. Um, how did implementation go throughout your staff? I mean, many staff do you have that are involved in the food box program, and how did it go with like training on the documentation that you were writing and stuff like that?
Well, we have the good fortune of having a food safety company that works with us in partnership with our Detroit Kitchen Connect program. And so we put together a food safety, food handlers special program for our food and health fellows that we hire every year. So we kind of tweaked the program to kind of specifically focus on producing food boxes, but lots of it were the same. You know, when we were talking about hygiene and employee illness and those types of things, those are things that we had already touched upon. So, we just had to apply it to packing food boxes, and it was not an issue. So, those are so we could train our folks. They get a certificate at the end of the program. Um, and then it's just a matter of training the right way to to pack a box.
Mhm. So what advice would you give somebody who is thinking about getting GAP certified and specifically on that engaging with buyers piece?
The advice is to fully connect to MIFS and to the Michigan Group GAP and to connect with John and to get an internal auditor to help you. Um, it was great to have somebody walk through our process with us and look over all of my standard operating procedures and my policies and make sure that, I was on target. Um, and there's resources. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Um, and it's not as hard as you think. So that to just do it. That would be my advice. And as far as talking to buyers, um, I think the most important thing that buyers need to know is that you have the certification, that you went through the process, and that food safety is a priority and woven into your daily production processes. Um, and and those who are buying for vulnerable populations already know that the weight of the GAP certification, or should know the weight of the GAP certification. And if not, you can direct them to what it means. But I think it's definitely within reach. And if I can do it, starting production in May and getting certified in August, you know, anyone can do it.
Mhm. Cool. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think people are probably done hearing from me. But I'm
Oh,
happy, like, flash my email if anybody has any questions. I'm happy to share any of my operating procedures for those who are packing boxes or doing packing. If there's any way that I can be a resource to anybody, I'm happy to put myself out there.
that's awesome. Appreciate that. Thank you, Christine. And if you have any questions for Christine, you can also drop those in the Q&A as well. Maybe John can put her contact info in the chat as well. Sweet.
And we were audited the same day as our friends here at Planted Detroit, so.
Yeah, they did mention they had another operation they were doing in the area, so I guess
That was us.
Yeah, no, we try to schedule audits in the same region